Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Fitness Solution. On the other end of the line, all the way from, is it San Francisco?
San Diego.
San Diego, close, not so far away. On the other end of the line, all the way from San Diego, I have the amazing Lily Nicole. And Lily and I connected when I was looking to kind of reach out and get some people to give me some ideas for meditations and things like that. And I came across Lily's work and it's phenomenal. It's really good stuff. So we're going to get into it today. We're going to get into meditation, how it can have a place in your fitness life, how it can have a place in your general life, and how it's good for your fitness. And you know me, I view fitness as a global commodity. Everything in our lives should kind of feed into our fitness story, and this is no different. So it's going to be a great episode, and we also have something really special to finish with you as well. We're going to finish with Lily's written an amazing meditation. It's called an empowerment meditation, and I'll get to explain a bit more about that in the episode, but we're going to finish with that for like 10 minutes at the end. So if you're driving, might be a good idea to hit pause at that point, but I'll give you plenty of warning. So sorry, I've waffled for ages, Lily. I'm going to let you say hello. Say hello.
Hi.
My pleasure. Have you had a lovely morning?
I have, yeah. I actually just woke up like an hour ago, made my coffee, and now we're here.
Perfect. So come on, let's get into it. Tell us all about yourself. Tell us what you do, who you are, why you do it, and let's get to know who you are.
All right, cool. Yeah. So I am Lily Nicole. I am a master life coach and healing guide. So a lot of, the certifications and the work that I do is subconscious mind based. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a Reiki practitioner. So I'm really interested in energy work and all of that as well. And I came into this work, well, about 5 years ago, actually. I signed up as a Beachbody coach. I don't know if you knew this about myself.
Yeah, I know. I didn't, but I know Beachbody.
Yeah. And I had like a lot of weight to lose, and I did great. Like I loved the company. I loved, all of the products, and I lost a lot of weight, and I was really body focused. But what was great about that company too is, they encourage personal development. So I'm reading, I'm learning about mindset and all of that. And a few years in, something just hit me. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot focus on my body for like one more second. I had been overloading myself with all of it. And that's why I love what you said at the start of this, how fitness really is like an all-encompassing thing. And it should be from the beginning, right? I think that sometimes in order for us to, because for me, before I ever got into working out or anything like that, I hated that stuff. Like as a kid, I remember in high school, I scheduled surgeries twice in order to get out of running the mile in high school. I was sneaky. I was like, we're not doing this, so I'm going to figure it out, right? So I feel like it was the only way for me to get into it was to get all the way in and kind of get obsessed. But eventually that just like messed with my mindset, and I pulled back and I started learning more about spirituality and our connection to the universe. And then I started learning about the subconscious mind and how all of that works and where our beliefs come from. And I really took like my foot off the gas when it came to exercise. And, then of course I gained weight back and I was uncomfortable in my body again. So it was almost like, it was like a pendulum swing. I was at one end and then I swung to the other. And what I've seen in clients and myself and just listening to people talk is that that's pretty common, right? In any area of life, we go to one extreme and then when we're sick of it, we go to the other. And then it's just giving it time to fall back in the middle. And what's allowed it to start to fall back in the middle is taking the pressure off of what the results are going to be in either area, right? So my mindset growth and my fitness. And I was watching, you had a little video about like work in process. That's what you were calling it,
today. Right? Well, yeah, I wrote a massive article yesterday all about the progress photo. You know how you get a photo that's like me 2 months ago and me now, and and I kind of really detest them. And as I was writing it, this idea hit me. It's like, why do we call them progress photos? Why do we call them before and after photos? Like for me, fitness, there is no finite, just exploration. Like there's no definition to it. All you're ever doing is exploring. And when I was at drama school, I'll tell you a little story. Sorry, I know this is your interview, but still. When I was at drama school, we used to do all the time. We used to do loads and loads of productions, non-stop. Every time we'd have a new production to work on, and as we're doing this production, loads of different people would come in and out of the rehearsal room and watch like our run-throughs and watch how we're doing and all of this. And all I used to keep hearing was the director going, okay, so today the movement director's coming in for the run through. Now, all I need you to remember, and she's aware of this, is that it's a work in process. And I was like, okay, fine. And then the lighting designer would come in. It's a work in process. Then the head of acting would come in and the director would get really nervous because that's basically their boss, right? And she'd be like, it's a work in progress. It's a work in process. Progress, I should say. And for me, it felt like it was an excuse. It felt like the director was excusing how crap our work was. And I didn't take nicely to that. And then in my third year, I was in Twelfth Night, William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. And it was one of the most favorite plays I've ever worked on. And our director, James Kemp, he basically adopted the attitude that it's always a work in progress. Like a play is a very live thing. It's a living object. It has an energy, it has a beginning, a middle, and end. And all we're ever doing is keeping it alive. And the way in which you keep it alive is by constant exploration, constant digging, constant understanding. Every night before we went onto stage, he'd come over the tannoy like with 5 minutes to go, and he'd go, oh, by the way, tonight you have to think about sex. And we're like, what? He's like, I want the production to be all about sex. And then we just find things in the play that suddenly it kind of unleashed our creativity, and it stopped the play ever dying. It stopped it ever getting stagnant. I mean, we've all sat through 3 hours of really boring Shakespeare where the actors are just to be or not to be, and you can sense they're bored of it and you're bored of it. And this was a great way around it. And it dawned on me as I was writing this article, I was like, it's a process. Like I've always told people to focus on the process, and I want them to focus on the work. And when we combine those two things, these photos of ourselves, it's not a summation of how successful you've been. It's a summation of your work in process, because that's all you ever are. And that's where that came from. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's great, because I love that so much, because, of course, as a Beachbody coach, that's what you're sharing all the time, right? It's like before, after, all the transformation Tuesdays. And God, they were great for me for a while. I was really proud of myself. Yeah. Then when things started slipping up, it was like, oh my God, like all of the guilt hitting, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm going backwards. And really what this time like off had provided me with was releasing that guilt, working on why the guilt was coming up in the first place, right? It's like, okay, why do I feel like I have to be, this specific size in order to be worthy? And of course, so much of it came from childhood and all of those inner wounds that were there, that I didn't even know were there for the reason that they were. And releasing that guilt allowed me to just live my freaking life, right? Still work out and be healthy, because at first I wanted to just give it all up completely, like almost as if, and I was like a mindset coach and everything too, but still in my head, we all go through this. I was like, well, it's just not worth it because I'm not doing it full time, Yeah. But now I'm like, okay, if I work out 3 times a week, I feel a lot better. And maybe I don't look how I used to then, but this is just my period of time right now. Maybe in 3 years, I'll get shredded. I have no idea, right? And maybe I'll gain more weight. I don't know. Like, I'm open to whatever, because I really do believe, life's a journey, and as cheesy as that sounds, it truly is. And we don't know where we're stopping, but there's always a lesson in every moment. And you don't know what the lesson is until after you pass it. It's like, of course you can't figure it out right in the moment. You're like in the muck and in the mud, but then 3 months later, a year later, 3 years later, you look back and you're like, oh, yeah. Like if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't know this.
Exactly. Hindsight's always 20/20, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people can look at me, and I talk about this quite often. They can look at me and they can go, you're a personal trainer now because you're a failed actor. Or they can look at me and go, you're a personal trainer because you were an actor. And it's entirely up to them how they view me. I stand by the fact that I'm not a failed actor. I had quite a good career actually, but that's just me being facetious. But I always talk about letting your past inform your future. So I'm all for healing the past. I'm all for never looking back on the past, and I'm all for moving away from it and trying to stay very present. But in that, you must always understand that you're only able to be that person you are right now because of who you were previously. So you shouldn't be hating on who you were before. You should just be loving that and accepting that's now who you are, able to look back on your past. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Oh, 100%. And so I do with clients and with myself. I mean, this is how I, went about my healing journey, was a lot of inner work and inner child work. And that has a lot to do with kind of going into the past, right?
I really want to get into inner child work, because it's something someone brought up with me the other day. She was like, Adam, you don't want to look at your inner child. I'm like, no, I really do. It's really great fun. So let's get into it. Let's do it. What is it? I don't know much about it, to be honest.
Okay, let me tell you. So you can look at it from several ways, right? I mean, I like to explain it in a way where your inner child, it personifies your subconscious mind. So all of our beliefs come from, moments that we've had in childhood, experiences that we've had in childhood, typically before the age of 7, because up until we're 7, we're like a walking sponge. So it works that way because we're born and we're like newborns. We know nothing, right? In order to survive in the world, we have to pick up these cues of, okay, mom does this at this time. That's how the world works. Dad says money doesn't grow on trees. That's how the world works. Because our brains want to put these beliefs into our subconscious so that we can just operate freely, so that our conscious mind has more space to take on what's going on in the moment. So up until 7, we're building our reality based off of that.
And your brain likes to take shortcuts, doesn't it? It doesn't like to use energy. So things that you've learned in the past, it's going to cut straight to that, because challenging that belief is going to use a lot of energy. It's going to use glucose. And obviously we have 2 million-year-old brains that are always basically revolving around survival, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great explanation of it too, because we grow up, right? And we're adults and we're walking around, and, fitness is a great example. Like, some people just can't get started and they have this belief about themselves. Oh, I'm big boned, right? You hear that a lot. I'm just big boned. Like, it doesn't work for me. I'm not flexible. I'm this, I'm that. And while there probably can be some truth to some of these things, right? I don't know that big boned is necessarily the right wording, but it's beliefs that we've instilled into ourselves from most likely watching our parents interact with each other, how our parents interacted with us, maybe things that like the doctor said when you were little, and you just instilled it into your mind as, okay, that's the truth. And now as an adult, when you do inner child work, what you have the opportunity to do, and this works in fitness, with money, right? With your job, with your career. Like, if you feel like you're always stuck in the same place, or you're in awful relationships and you're like, why the hell am I still here? Right? It's because you have this belief that either that's what you're worthy of, that's what you deserve, or that's just how things work. And when you get to be an adult, you get to ask yourself and question, okay, is this the ultimate truth? Right? A lot of times people will say, I can't work out. That's just not how I am. Like, I just hate it. That would have been me in high school, right? Trying to get out of the mile. Like, oh, that's just not for me. But that's not necessarily true. That's just the truth that I believed my whole life and locked in and stored in. So when we do inner child work, I mean, there's lots of different ways to go about it, but I just like to go in and I just like imagine little Lily like in front of me at whatever age I feel like she needs to be. And the first few times, I mean, all the time, it's pretty emotional. Like, you may cry if you go through a meditation, but like looking at her and just being like, I love you, you're enough, you are worthy, and delivering the messages that she needs to hear. And then, since it's really your subconscious mind that's still holding on to those beliefs, they start to unravel, or you at least become more conscious of them, so that when you are acting based off of those beliefs, you notice it and you can course correct.
Right.
Or begin to.
Of course. I saw an interesting post earlier about course correction, in that if you tried to fly in a straight line between London and New York, but you turned the nose of the plane by 1 degree off course, eventually you'd obviously end up like a long way away, like maybe in a different country over that same period of time. And those tiny little corrections over time create a big chasm of space, and you have to constantly check in and get onto a straight line. And another good analogy of that is boats never travel in a straight line. They're always tacking, they're always moving ever so slightly, like zigzagging almost through the sea, because if they went straight, they'd end up nowhere. They have to constantly zigzag with the tide, with the wave, with basically the way their journey is panning out. They have to constantly make these little changes, and that's how they get to their destination. And it's
Yeah.
really, really interesting. Your story about going into your mind, into your subconscious and everything, it reminded me of an exercise we used to do at drama school. We were all made to sit down on a chair, and it sounds cruel, but it really wasn't. And it was all about getting into your effective memory. We call it effective memory in the world of acting. And it's basically what Lee Strasberg used to teach, and with Marlon Brando and Al Pacino, you know, where you basically relive the emotions you used to have. It all comes from a guy called Stanislavski. And we used to have to, and we used to have to, we sat there and our teacher would, or our acting coach would take us through this story and this past story of ours where we felt very emotional. And the transformation in people, when you're doing this with people, do you see their bodies change? Do you see them almost turn into their 7-year-old selves? Because that's what happened in this class. And I remember doing mine, and it was like I was back at school. And I could feel my blazer. I could feel like the money that I thought I had that I didn't have. I could feel the pressure I was under. I could sense all the teachers around me. It was a very scary experience, but it was very wonderful and revealing and releasing all at the same time. It was really nice. And I also had no idea I was clinging on to this memory until I went through this process. Is that what you experience when you do it? Is it similar to that?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of things too, with a lot of memories that are maybe negative that probably did really influence how we're showing up now. Our minds want to protect us from that. So we've spent our whole lives like, you know, like blinders on, not looking at it. And when we take the opportunity to actually go in, at first, we can be very resistant to it. And like you said, it can feel scary. But what I have found really works, like for me, is if I'm going into that memory, I'm like, okay, we're here right now. Like I'm safe right now, right? So it's reminding yourself, like there's a ceiling above me, floor below me, walls to the side of me.
Yeah.
Taking a deep breath and then going in and knowing that what you're doing is, like, I like to think of my inner child almost as a separate being from me, even though she's inside of me, just because it helps me. Sometimes it's harder to give that love to yourself than it would be to give to like a child. So I'm like, I want to go in and I want to protect her. I want to remind her that in this moment, this like embarrassing moment, this scary moment, whatever it was, like she's okay and she's safe. And look, she made it out of there, right? Because then it can like doesn't rewire things in your brain, but for lack of a better word, like it rewires your brain and how you show up now, because it's almost like time traveling and you've gone into the past to, you know, it's like the butterfly effect, kind of just like those examples you gave with the airplane and the boat. Like one flap of the butterfly's wings could change everything in the future. And so when we go back and we just change a little tiny thing, it can start to shift things so that you make decisions in a new way. And what you were saying about like people really feeling like they're there, that's a great example too within acting. I mean, I've never been an actor, not since like middle school musicals, but but the whole idea of like getting into an emotion and using your old feelings, we do that in NLP also, which is neuro-linguistic programming. So like any emotion is a state. So if a person wants to feel, you know, they come and they say, I really just want to feel more confident in my life. I'm like, well, okay, like confidence is a state. It's something that you can step into. So, you know, when you remember a sad memory and all of a sudden you can feel sad, it's not because you're there right in the moment, it's because you're remembering that sad memory. So you remember a time when maybe you felt confident before, and maybe it's something small, maybe you have to think about it. Maybe it's like, oh, I felt really great when I, you know, I don't know, ran across the street like for the first time ever and I felt really good about myself. Or some people feel like they've never had those experiences and they have to imagine this is like a secondary choice, but you could be like, okay, well, who in your life is really confident that you can just imagine that you're in their mind for right now, right? And when you go back to that moment in time, you can feel that confidence fill your body and you say, okay, how does it feel in my chest? How does it feel in my stomach? Like notice it. And then you can step into it. So when you need the confidence in the future, you just remember that memory and you're like, whew, okay. And now in that moment, you're showing up in that state. And even though it seems faked and forced, eventually
it's right. Natural. Yeah. I mean, practice makes permanent, doesn't it? Like I always talk about that, exactly what you're talking about, when I'm on stage and when I was working as an actor, and I still talk about it with clients in fitness now as well. It's amazing how much of this always goes back to my time at drama school. It's really interesting. But we worked on two principles. We worked on the inner to the outer. And what I mean by that is when you're building a character, you have to build two parts of them. You have to build their outer presence and the way they move, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they flick their hair, the way they hold their handbag. And all of these things go into how you build your character. And then what happens is once you start getting all the outer work together, you start getting the inner feelings of that person as well. Um, and you start to feel the emotions they need to feel in those moments, because you've outlined how they shape in the world, how they are in the world. And you can work two ways. You can work outer to inner, and that's how that works. So you can work inner to outer. So once you can really focus in how do you think they're feeling, and you can dissect your script up and everything else to unpick it all and write actions, and I won't get into it, it's very complex. And then that can lead you to the way you're gonna physically react in situations, because you've got the inner emotion correct. And it's true, it's very true. We was always taught like two things: get the right pair of shoes for your character and get the right haircut for your character. And once you get those two things, you're gonna have your character. And it's true, you know, like you just sit there staring at yourself in the mirror. It's like, okay, who am I? What? And the more you look at yourself as that person, and the more, this is why I'm a big fan of self-affirmations in the morning when I'm trying to build self-esteem in clients. I'm like, let's do self-affirmations. Wake up in the morning, stare at yourself in the mirror and just say, I love the glint in your eye. Because I've been able to do it to create literal lives of other human beings, and then share those human beings with thousands of people. And if someone can just realize that staring at themselves in the mirror and just talking to themselves in that way, in the way you need to talk to yourself that day, it can really help. But I know it can only help as long as you actually believe what you're saying to yourself as well. Which is really interesting. This is crazy. I was really lucky what you say about inner beliefs. I've got a heart condition, so I was born with a congenital heart disease, and all my life I've got a scar going down my chest from like the bottom of my neck to like the middle of my body, to the middle of my abdomen. And I had open heart surgery, and my parents never let me use it as an excuse for anything, and I'm so grateful for that, because it means that it's never stopped me doing anything. Whereas someone else I've seen with these conditions, they're like fragile, very scared people, because they've obviously been told a different story from a young age, that how fragile they are, how delicate their life is. It's funny, isn't it, how those little messages can literally change the course of each other so hugely.
Yeah, that's just the proof, like that, you know, nothing is the ultimate truth. We decide what our ultimate truth is, and then that's what people mean when they say you create your own reality. It's because your beliefs create your own reality, and your beliefs are probably not your fault, right? When you're a kid and you're being told these things, like you said, if someone is being told like you're very fragile, you have to be careful, like don't do too much, that's not their fault that they're listening to the people that they trust, the only people that they know and can trust, right? But then it's like, okay, as an adult, we can look at it and you can see proof of other people like you who's not that way. And, you know, because you weren't raised that way, okay. But then they can say, okay, well, if that's his truth, then that can be mine as well. And you can take that in any direction of any, you know, any area of life.
And then doesn't that just lead into being inspired by others?
It definitely could.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So how do you go about, like, is there any other way of kind of like realigning your course other than doing these kind of inner child work? Because or how do you go about getting a hold of inner child workshops? I know you do them and things like that. Is that the best way? Is there little tricks and tips people can take into their day to just help them feel like, I'm not saying they'll have to go and talk to their 7-year-old selves, but just start to try and change the course of their truth?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there are just endless ways to do it, and it's whatever resonates with you. You know, if like you hear the term inner child and you're drawn to it, then yes, like find someone to work with, or go on YouTube. That's how I start everything, you know, like Google inner child meditation. You'll be crying in your bed. That's what I was doing. But I think like just like any way that calls to you. So inner child work is great. Also, like you said, like affirmations, mirror work. I'm a really big fan of mirror work when it comes to body. I do a lot of body love work. I wouldn't even really call it body confidence, because it's really just like loving your body for what it is. And what I teach people in that area is to stand in front of the mirror. And like you said, like the first few days of it, like just looking at yourself in the eyes and really, it almost becomes awkward. And that's how you know, like there's more versions of you inside of you than just the present you. It's like there's your higher self, there's, you know, your inner child, because when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, this is uncomfortable. This is like almost embarrassing, even though you're the only one there, right?
Like you're on a first date, right?
Yeah. And like you want to stare in someone's eyes for that long, so you feel weird. But it's like you need, in order for you to be comfortable like that with anyone else. You have to be comfortable like that with yourself. And so building that connection is so huge and so important. And then with the body work, I mean, I move people on from there, and then you stand there in your underwear and like, you know, feel your body, get to know what your body, you know, actually feels like, and just start experiencing those parts of yourself. Because I think all of this work, no matter what it is, if you aren't where you want to be in your life, it comes down to getting to know yourself and admitting to what you actually desire in life. I believe that that's our biggest problem, is that we don't admit what we want, right? We're born worthy, okay? I talk about this all the time. I say, I am worthy just because I am, is my favorite affirmation. It's my favorite thing to remind people of. And over time, I mean, you know, when you like teach something for so long, I'm like, oh God, guys, like, of course you're worthy. It's not, oh, I'm settling for less than I deserve. You know, I'm worthy of more. Like, that's just a given no matter what, right? You are worthy of more until the end of time. You're going to be worthy of more. What you have to do is accept that you're worthy of more, and then admit to what you actually want. So many people stay stuck in the same place because they're afraid to say, ooh, I kind of don't want to do this anymore. You know, like, I was a teacher and I spent so much freaking money going into teaching. And then it was like, just kidding, you know? And that was hard for me to admit to myself, because what if it doesn't work out, you know, X, Y, Z. But that's just one example. People, that comes up in relationships, it comes up in body, it comes up, you know, I moved from New Jersey to San Diego, which is a 3,000 mile difference. And I just picked up one day and went. And most people wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago. I would have thought, like, if someone told me this is my future, I would have been like, what? But it's just about like saying, okay, yes, I do want more. And then setting your sights on it, right? And this is how we begin to manifest things for ourselves, is just setting our sights on it, admitting that we want it, and then listening to the cues that come up. Because once you know what you want and you say that you want it, the next step is like releasing how you're going to get there, and then being open to the opportunities that flow into your life. So you'll hear things, you'll hear about inner child work, or you'll hear about like a fitness program, or you'll hear about, I mean, I don't know, anything in the world, and it sparks something in you. That's that inspired action that now it's time for you to take it. So I think that there are limitless ways to get in touch and connected with yourself. And it's really about what pulls you and draws you right now, because it's going to be a bunch of different things over the course of time, but like where you begin is going to build a foundation for, you know, the rest of it.
Yeah, that's huge. That's great. God, I often when I do these podcasts, I just listen. I end up listening and I completely forget I have to ask a question, because I'm just figuring out in my life everything that you've just said. It's nuts. It's mental. It's awesome. So how does all this play into your like NLP work and your neuro-linguistic programming and stuff? And do they both go hand in hand, or are they two kind of separate projects? How does all that work?
So it's funny because I started doing inner child work, you know, a while back, and then I went to go through an NLP certification, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is inner child work. Like that was when I made the realization.
Like me and my acting.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is all what I did at drama school.
Yep. Like, did I just pay thousands of dollars to get certified in what I already know? Yes. Yep. But no, it brought it to like a deeper level, right? So with NLP, it really is subconscious mind work, and we're working on releasing old beliefs. And it really, a lot of it has to do with remembering, like I said before, like old states. So old emotions that you can step into, like confidence or happiness or joy, right? And also old memories of when you maybe made a decision to believe something. So something interesting about NLP that I can share is, I mean, we all know the concept of like limiting beliefs, right? When you come into the personal development world, it's like limiting beliefs overload. You're like, what do I believe that's limiting me? And, you know, we're all searching for everything. And in NLP, what we say is that it's not a limiting belief that's the problem that we have to get to the root of. It's the limiting decision. So what we do then is, let's say your belief is, you know, I can never have enough money. Like money always disappears, right? It's asking yourself, when did I decide that? So I would ask a client, if they say something to me that sounds like a limiting belief, okay, when did you decide that? And then as you dig, right, it might not come to you right away. It's like, oh, I remember when like dad sat us down and said that we lost all of our money because, you know, something went wrong in his business, and we just haven't had money since then. So right? I decided we're not the types of people that have money. And so then you're living your life based off of that belief. But then in NLP, I mean, we do all sorts of things. There's different techniques. It's not hypnosis, but they're like similar to hypnosis, where we go in and the practitioner will speak to the subconscious mind so that you can just kind of let go of these old decisions, and you go over the timeline of your life. It's pretty trippy, and you like drop the decision. You're just like, it's just gone now. And yeah, it's interesting. And it really just, you know, we talk about reprogramming the subconscious mind, and that's truly what it is.
That's great. I mean, limiting decisions, I go through them all the time, and then I imagine like imposter syndrome comes into that, and I see it all the time with clients as well. You know, like I've had quite a lot of clients recently talk about self-sabotage and talk about how, you know, like I've got one client who's just like, I got to this weight before and then it just all started going up again, and I know I can't break through it. I know I can't. I'm like, well, why do you sabotage yourself every time that happens? Like, what is that? Why do you think you're not? Because I actually know that you have broken through it before, because I have the data to back that up. But you're approaching it now and you're going, it's going to happen again. 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 And you're freaking yourself out. And it's incredibly interesting when you look at why people are scared of success and why people feel like they don't deserve to give themselves the chance of what they really, truly want.
Yeah. Well, I have something interesting about self-sabotage.
Yeah, go.
Because we do, I mean, people self-sabotage all the time, right? Yeah. I would do it with food my whole life, with, you know, boyfriends, with everything. It was like, once things were going good, like, let's just mess everything up. And, and you wonder, right? It's like, okay, so people listening to this, and you as well, it's like, while you're in that moment self-sabotaging, you know exactly what you're doing. Yeah. You don't want to be doing it, but you still do it anyway, right? So it's this really confusing thing, like, why the hell am I doing this? No one ever like comes around to understand that. The reason is, so as humans, we like to, I mean, I would call it a comfort zone, but it's not comfortable, right? It's uncomfortable, it sucks. But we like to be in what's familiar. Yeah. So whatever is familiar to us, we want to go back to. So if in childhood, there was a lot of stress and anxiety, right? That's familiar to us. So when things start going good, we're like, what the hell is happening? And our bodies are off. Our subconscious mind is like, this isn't easy, right? I have to think about navigating through this because it's new. So let's get us back. Or there's also those thoughts of, well, when's the ball going to drop, right? This isn't normal. So I know it's going to go back. I might as well speed up the process so that I at least know when the downfall is coming, because I'm in charge of the downfall, right? If I self-sabotage, then I can be prepared for it, versus if I just let it happen because our minds believe that it's inevitable, because, you know, that's not what we're familiar with. And so a lot of like if you find yourself self-sabotaging all the time, it's the work that you want to do won't necessarily be around, right? So if you're self-sabotaging in fitness, it's not necessarily just going to be more fitness that you do. You're going to want to focus on being comfortable with the unknown and getting comfortable with uncertainty, and knowing that all of life is just uncertainty, and all that we have is this present moment now. And the past, you know, doesn't matter unless we're looking for a lesson, and the future doesn't matter. Like, it's just right here in this moment now. And so what I like to do is, have you read the book, The Power of Now?
No, I haven't, but I don't think I need to, because I went to drama school and it's all about that. One of my voice coaches, you'll love this. One of my voice coaches, that's a lie. Of course, I need to read it. We should always read. One of my voice coaches, he used to always say, his name is Stuart Pearce, and this is the kind of man he is. He brought out a book called The Alchemy of Voice. And his advice to me once was to go find a lake or find a woodland or something, massive lake, woodland or whatever. And he said, over the summer, I want you to shout sonnets into the world. And I was like, what the? I was an 18-year-old Essex boy. Like, it's like, you know, an 18-year-old from New Jersey almost, you know, a bit cheeky. I wasn't from like a rich family or anything like that. I'd never come across this kind of world before. I was like, you're talking nonsense, mate. And, and I ended up, I actually, by luck would have it, I went on holiday with my friends that summer, and we ended up in a mountain range, and there was this beautiful lake. I was like, oh, you know exactly what, you knew I was going to end up here, Stuart. And he said, and I did, and I stood there and I started shouting these sonnets, these Shakespearean sonnets and these Shakespeare speeches and stuff into into the world. And it was I've never told him this, but it was really revealing. It's very annoying. But anyway, he used to always say, it's the kind of person he was. And he used to always say, the past is history. The future is a mystery. And the present is a gift from God. And it's true. It's great. I mean, it's annoying it came from such an irritating man, but he was right. And
Yeah.
it is, isn't it? The past is
Irritating
history.
because-
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? But it's true. And it's always stuck with me. The past is history. The future is a mystery. And the present is a gift from God. And
Yeah.
it's something to remember big time. Sorry, I cut you off a little bit there, didn't I?
No, that's okay. I mean, that's great too, because I think something I talk about a lot as well is like cliches, and they're cliche for a reason. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I like what you just said, it's kind of very similar to like a poster that I think was in my elementary school, like the past is a history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. That just
Yeah.
like, I have that memorized. But it begins to mean nothing when we see it over and over again, right? Because we're just like, we think that we know it because we've seen it. But like knowing something and understanding and feeling something are two different things. And when you can learn to just be present in the moment right now, then it doesn't matter what's going to happen in the future, because the future doesn't ever actually even arrive, right? You're always in a different moment of now. So if you could just be like, it's so fucking simple. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope that I can curse.
That's fine. Chris can.
It's so simple. And we just like, don't let it be simple. When we could really just be here in this moment, anxiety would be gone, right? Depression would be gone, because there'd be nothing to worry about. There's no such thing as a problem in the present moment. Even if there is something that you have to fix, like if you're just in the moment with it and not worrying about what the outcome's going to be, because the outcome's in the future, right? Then you just take care of it while you're there, right? So that's a lot like self-sabotage. If you could just learn to bring yourself back to the present moment. And I definitely suggest that book, The Power of Now. Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't finished it yet. It's something that I'm reading right now, but it's like changing my perspective on everything, and it's really good.
Talking of that, I had some anxiety the other day. Like, it wasn't huge or anything. I don't really suffer with anxiety too much or anything. But and also like at the minute, I'm in the process of moving to Australia. I'm, moving my entire business basically online and everything. Like, there's a lot of scary crap going on. I'm getting married next year, hopefully. I've got to buy a house. None of that bothers me. But I just got into this little headspace the other day. It's like, what about retirement? I was like, where's my retirement savings living? Like, where's, and I was like, hang on. This is the one biggest thing in my life that kind of comes back every now and then. It's like, and the reason it does is because I'm not doing anything about it. And I'm like, it's fine, because I've always figured money out, like, to this point. I've always just about, so I'm sure I'll figure it out when I get there. I'm like, I just keep putting it off until I turn 65. Even if I'm still coaching people at 70, I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. I'm working right. And it doesn't bother me, but it is. I can sense that. I can sense that pressure of the future. And that's so far in the future. It's like, talk to me about something in 2 years' time. I do not care about it, because I know I'll be okay. But once that timeline extends that much, like, 40 years, it's like, hang on. Now I've only got 30. I'm 33, so I've only really got 30 years. It's like, oh crap, that's not enough. I haven't saved enough money yet. Like, I'm never gonna get there, am I? And all these things. It's funny, isn't it, how that can come in and impact you. I just wanted to double back on something quickly about what you said about doing body work in the mirror and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How would you advise someone who can't look at themselves in the mirror, who just can't stare at their body, can't look at their body in like swimming costume or anything like that? Like, because a lot of my clients, they're wonderful human beings, and people listening to this, but my goodness, I know full well they go, well, that sounds lovely, but she clearly loves her body, so it doesn't matter. And they hate their body. They really can't get over that. They really can't stand and look at themselves in an honest manner. So, like, I love the idea of getting to know yourself, understanding that. But I think really where that conversation needs to be investigated a little bit more is, how do you do it? How do you actually physically get yourself to stand there and go, right, this is what I'm going to do right now? Because I think that would cause a lot more anxiety in these people than necessarily actually executing it. Because it's like what we've been discussing. It's that fear of, what's it going to be like? How am I going to feel about myself? And that's going to push them away from doing it. So how would you kind of guide someone into that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that what I always say to everyone with any work any sort of personal growth work is give yourself grace, right? Knowing that you may not be at the same level or in the same place as someone else who's just beginning the work, because again, we're all individual. We all have our own stories. And I remember what it feels like to hate your body. Like, I don't always remember it because it's something that it feels so far removed from who I am now, but which I think is good news, right?
Yeah.
Because there is somewhere to go.
Yeah, there's hope for people.
At the same time, I remember listening to podcasts like this and, like you said, being like, well, easy for her to say, right? Like, she's already on the other side of it. But it did take, effort and conscious effort. So what I would say to someone like that is, so one day I actually realized, I had this thought to myself about how, when you're in like a long-term relationship with someone, and if they're not there right now, you close your eyes, you could like outline their body with your hands, right? Like, exactly how it feels because you spend time getting to know a person that you love, right? And I was like, kind of newly single, maybe for like 6 months, thinking, I can remember the outlines of both of the bodies of my 2 long-term ex-boyfriends. If I closed my eyes and just put my hands in the air, I wouldn't be able to like outline my own body. I don't know what it feels like. So that's where I started, right? Like, okay, let me get to know this body. And it might just be one body part. Like, if you have one body part that you're like, okay, this maybe is my favorite, even if it's like your hand, I don't know, maybe you have like an engagement ring on that hand, or maybe
your big toe, you just like your big toe,
right? Yeah, who knows, maybe you just got a pedicure today and you really like your toes, right?
I love how you saved that. I was just mucking around and you're like, yeah, no, you can have a pedicure. Like, always look on the positive, Lily. Like, it's amazing.
So just start to, feel your body. So for me, I don't know why, whenever I explain this, like, I go straight to my thighs. That was not my favorite part of my body at all. But laying in bed at night, right, it's already dark and you're under the covers and, that's all it is. And it's not like a sexual thing. It's literally just like, okay, what do my thighs feel like? And using your hands and tracing them and rubbing them. And eventually once you start to build more of a connection with your body and an understanding of your body, because if you've avoided the mirror forever, right, you've avoided looking at yourself, you've hated when you were getting dressed, you don't have that connection with your body. But if you can imagine like your best friend or a sister or, a parent or someone who, a child, someone who you do love, you would hate the idea that they don't, love themselves and that it gives them anxiety to look at themselves in the mirror. Yeah. So when you can almost know your body as like not a separate entity, but something like separate from your mind, it's like you want to give it more love and respect, because we just have this, like, our society has drilled into us that it's not okay to love yourself. It's selfish, it's conceited, right? But when we can kind of then remove ourselves from it, so almost as if we're looking down on it, and just allowing ourselves to feel it, I think gives us that feeling. And take as much time as you need, right? Remember, again, it's not a race. Everyone's in a different position. You are here with a purpose that's individual, and you're gonna maybe require different lessons and a different timeline than someone else. And that's okay. So forgive yourself, number one, if it's not all immediate. And eventually over time, I think that you will be more okay with glancing in the mirror.
Love it. Love it. It's so good. Yeah, it's like it's a case of trying to find objectivity, isn't it? Of moving yourself away from subjectivity and just respecting yourself for who you are and what it is, and just deal with the facts. Like, so much in weight loss, and like, it's data. All it is data. It's just a fucking number. It's just a number. It's just data. All it is data. And I'm not exactly a statistician or anything, but like, and just trying to drill that message into people that it doesn't mean anything other than the fact it is a number that you can put on a graph, and then the next day you put it on a graph again, the next day you put it on the graph again, and literally just treat yourself like you're an astrophysicist. Right? That's all you got to do. And if you can start to just, it's almost like what you're saying about outer to inner. If you can start just doing it like that, just doing it methodically, like a robot, like data, then slowly but surely you're going to remove yourself away from that number and the way that number makes you feel. And you'll then start to be able to see how you can manipulate it, because it's not anything emotional, it's just factual. And we can deal with facts a lot easier than we can deal with emotions. Or we can deal with facts a lot more removed than we can with emotions.
Right.
And moving you towards the fact is really important. Really important, I think.
When it comes to like numbers on a scale, just the only thought that I have about that too is like the only meaning it has is the meaning that you give it, and you get to change that meaning whenever, right? It takes work. It's not like it's easier said than done, as is everything. But the only meaning it holds is the meaning that you give it, because 160 pounds to you might mean something completely different than it does to another person. And again, it's because it's so subjective, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like a football player would love to be 300 pounds, and you want to be half of that. It's crazy. And it is all about context, isn't it? And it's about the context of the people you surround yourself by that give you the story of what you think that number should be. I think that's a huge thing with it as well, is that comparison that we constantly do, which takes us straight back to where we started about before and after photos. Work in process photos. Look at that. Well, should we move into the meditation now? Would that be cool?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Awesome. So if you are listening to this whilst driving a vehicle, hit pause now and then come back to it later. Make sure you come back to it. Don't let me down, dear listener. And maybe listen to this. Is there like a time of day it's best to do this, or anything like that, or a particular moment, or just when you're feeling jazzy, just get on and do it?
Yeah, I think if you're listening now and you have time, like just allow yourself to. And I like to do meditations either to break up my day personally. A lot of people like to do them in the morning, a lot at night. So again, it's personal.
It just is what it is. So this is an empowerment script written by Lily. And let's just go with it. Wait, am I doing the bits in bold? I am, aren't I?
Yeah, you'll do the ones in bold. I just want to start off by allowing everyone to get in touch with their body and take a deep cleansing breath and breathe out the stress of the day, knowing that all that matters right now is where you are. Everything will be still waiting for you when you return. And start to close your eyes and notice all of the different parts of your body as they get deeper and deeper relaxed.
It is time now to open your mind up to endless possibilities. You have become a blank slate. Notice the openness, the space you have to receive and to believe. All of the messages now, all of the messages that are coming through to you. Knowing now that anything you desire is possible for you. Anyone you want to be. Anything you want to do. Anything you want to have. Knowing now that it is all possible for you in this space, in this time. Realizing that the simple fact that you are here now, in this body, in this mind, is miraculous. All of the things that had to line up in order for you to be here, in this peaceful moment, lined up. Feel the absolute power inside of you, the absolute worthiness inside of you.
Allowing your unconscious mind to guide you now, to envision the life you desire. Release any thought of lack. Let go of any thought of how will I make what I want happen, and let your intuition flow as you begin now to imagine your dream life. Picture yourself in an empty space, a white room, white walls, white above you, white below you. All that is in this expansive, giant, empty white room is you. And you have the power to create whatever you desire. In this room, you hold all of the power. The only opinion that matters is that of your highest self. And you feel their energy filling the room. You feel their excitement reverberating off the walls. And you feel that excitement of theirs build in you as it courses through your body. It shifts into a feeling of total and complete power. With their belief in you, you know now that you can do anything, that you can have anything, that you can be anyone.
In this empty room, this blank slate, you hear your own voice repeating, "I am magic. I have the power to create what I desire, the power to declare what I deserve. I have the power to be, do, have, and say all that is in my heart." Feel in your mind as your feet are rooted to the ground, standing strong and firm. And notice as a bright white light comes from above you, the bright, loving, protective light of the universe. And it flows through your body, lighting all of your senses, shooting through the bottoms of your feet, through the ground, into the core of the earth. Knowing now that you are connected to the stability of the earth and the expansiveness of universal energy, allow this to make you feel safe, protected, empowered. And now, using this innate power right now, in this empty white room, allow your unconscious mind to begin to fill it with what you want to create in your reality.
As you stand here in this space that reflects your new reality, that reflects the potential of your power, notice as this feeling fills your body. A feeling of gratitude, of confidence, of empowerment. Remembering now that the universe is infinite, and as you are so connected to the universe, your power is infinite. Asking your subconscious now to rid your mind of can't and turn all of your thoughts towards yes and I am magic. Turning all of your thoughts to the intense, immeasurable power that is within you now and always.
And now, when I count backwards from 5, you will be fully aware of your surroundings and feel empowered, bold, and ready. taking a deep, empowered breath. 4, wiggling your fingers and toes. 3, becoming more and more aware now. 2, taking a big, powerful stretch. 1, eyes opened and back into the room.
Hey, welcome back, everyone.
Hello, it's nice to have you here. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, I loved that.
Oh, even I feel all lovely and empowered now. That's that bit about the white light coming through your body and feeling empowered by the ground and like Mother Earth supporting you. I always say Mother Earth is the only thing we have that ever gives us constant support. It's the only thing in our life that is always there to support you no matter what. It reminded me of I used to do chakra meditations years ago, and that was all about letting the light fill your body. And we used to do it at drama school as well all the time. And when I was at drama school, I was like, I don't see light. I don't know what it is. I never feel it. But now my older, wiser self is feels very, very different to that. And I get it. I get it. That was in those Stuart Pearce classes as well, Mr. Alchemy of Voice. Lily, this has been a phenomenal experience. It's been lovely chatting to you. Thank you for the meditation, and thank you for being here from the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of my listeners' hearts to you. Thank you so much. Please let everybody know how they can get in touch with you. Where's the best place to find you, to get hold of you, to do inner child workshops with you and everything else, because I'm sure they're going to love it.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I had so much fun in this conversation. We'll need to do this for my podcast.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So you guys, my podcast is called The Bold Bodied Podcast. So you can find that wherever you listen. I am on Instagram mostly. It's like my main hangout place at Lily Nicole Coaching. I story all day long. So
it's Lily with one L, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lily Nicole Coaching with one L. And let's see. Oh, I'm having my YouTube launches on Monday, July 6th.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So I'm Lily Nicole on there. You can find me and subscribe. And I have an inner child workshop. It's called Nourished Roots, and it's only $27. It's a way to get started with all of that work. So if that's something you're interested in, the link is in my Instagram bio, so you can grab that.
Perfect. Lily, once again, thank you so much. And I can't wait. I can't wait to stay connected with you and see what happens in the future.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, I should say I can't wait to see what happens in the only ever present moment that happens at some point.
In the next moments of now.
Yeah, in the next, 40,000 moments forward. Right. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again very, very soon.
Thank you.